Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Pappy Hour.
Welcome.
Here with my co-host, the fine Jessica.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's early in the morning,
We're live from a nice rainy morning in San Diego.
and we're having a storm right now, so...
It's pouring out there.
I know.
Might hear a little background of some rain there, rain on the window.
I know, it's fun to watch, though.
So it's something appropriate. You were going to ask why I have a yellow shirt on.
Again.
I'm wearing yellow this morning, and it is time for a re-shout out to Tommy Bahama.
Tommy.
Tommy Bahama. I've been waiting for the shirts to be sent, but they have not shown up.
Tommy, the shirts have not arrived yet.
Yeah.
So...
Men's extra large. I got one in the mail, but it was a small. I think they got mixed up. Do I look that?
We're sending them to Tristan.
Yeah. Do I look that small on online? But why I'm wearing a yellow shirt is because today we're gonna kind of parlay last episode of the Donner Party, boom, right into the California Gold Rush.
Wow, what a topic.
The Gold Rush, California dreaming, like at
Boom.
Disneyland. So, California Gold Rush,
Yeah,
crazy part of California history.
yeah.
What do you want to know about it?
Well, I know a little bit about it. Every California fourth grader, most every California fourth grader, remembers multiple chapters on the Gold Rush. And at my school, we had Gold Rush Day,
Gold Rush days, Simon's Elementary School.
which I will not forget, partly because
Because of your father, the Civil War reenactor.
of my father, who had trunks and trunks of outfits and Hollywood level costuming that, most of the little girls who showed up were wearing some sort of dress found at the Halloween store, or maybe
overalls.
maybe some overalls. So it was kind of haphazard, dressed like a gold miner, dressed like an mid-18th century woman, and I was a little bit of a tomboy. So I said, Dad,
Make me a miner.
trick me out. Trick me out. And I'll never forget, you're like, okay, you got these pants. This is like, the night before. And I'm like, Dad, I need an outfit for Gold Rush Day. And you were like,
We threw it together.
Gold Rush Day.
Gold Rush Day.
And you started building the outfit with the big old pants and the flannel shirt.
Yeah.
And then came the facial hair. My dad
Oh,
had,
I put a beard on you.
you had a goatee, like a Hollywood, in like a little case. I remember
Oh, yeah.
you're all, you have to wear this. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously I
Yeah.
have to.
I used to put that on when I used to buy beer at about 16 years old.
Yeah.
Out in out the little grocery store in New Almaden.
Yeah. When you stuck it to my face, it didn't feel like the first time someone had worn it.
No, I sported
So,
that thing.
oh, we got a little fly joining
Yeah.
us for the podcast.
And when I was Civil War reenacting, I started at 15. So at that time, I was not growing any facial hair. So I used to zap that thing on there, put a little, they called it,
It was like a rugged one too. It looked like,
yeah, they called it, the glue you put on had a special name, was called spirit gum. For some reason, you took this little jar of spirit gum and you brushed it on your face and then you stuck this beard on there.
yeah.
And that was all Hollywood stuff. So
Yeah. So I had this Hollywood
had
stuff.
your beard on.
And then before school the next day, you like went outside and you got some dirt and you rubbed it on my face. And I mean, I looked.
I don't think I had to do that. You just rolled out of the sack with a dirty face.
But I showed up and everyone was like, "Who's the actor?"
But wait about the hat.
They're like,
I had
"Who is
this-
that?" I'm
had
like,
this-
"That's Jessica guy."
I had this floppy slouch hat on you, this Civil War old beat up
Yeah, yeah. I looked
hat,
like
looked like it'd been through the Gold Rush.
I could be working at Thunder Mountain at Disneyland.
Yeah.
It was.
You wore a haversack, which was a haversack is a
I
piece
could have
of
survived
yeah, it's
with all the things that you've sent with me.
haversack
Rations.
held your food in there, and then your tin plate and an old fork that was made of like deer horn or something. And I had all
Yeah.
this stuff, and then you had some great little boots on.
Yeah, I mean, I looked the part, and I rolled up that morning going, "I'm the coolest person here. Like, I am the coolest person here."
Yeah.
In hindsight, you know, I
Was it?
really went over the top.
Yeah, but you had fun and I
Yeah.
think didn't during that kinda California history time, didn't I come one day in
Yeah,
my
you
Civil
made an
War costume?
appearance, and you dressed up in all your Civil War, costumes, and you made, uh, uniforms.
Yes.
And you made an appearance, and you talked to us about it, your Civil War reenacting, I remember that. You came
Yeah.
in your long, giant blue coat.
Yeah, the kids like that.
Yeah. But
Kids
the
like that.
funniest part of that day that I literally will never forget is, you'd go from station to stations. So throughout the day, you had like a mining station and a whatever. And we had a,
A
a swing dancing
donut
station,
station.
sugar donut station. We had a swing dancing station,
Oh,
which was in
wow.
the cafeteria. So everyone's pairing up and I'm looking around and, I'm dressed. I look like a
You're a
dude.
minor.
I look like a dude. So I'm looking for dude swing partners and no
Yeah.
dude wants to swing partner with me
Well,
because
that was
I don't look like a cute
historically ironic
I don't look like a cute little lady.
that the dudes were dancing with the dudes.
Yeah, there were a lot of dude minors and not a lot of female ones.
No.
So I'm looking around and I was a tall 4th grader, I'll just say. I was quite tall.
Looked
So
more like a 7th grader.
the only person left in the classroom was the smallest little Asian boy. He was my friend, and we partnered up, and there's pictures of us dancing together.
Yeah.
And I just remember I'm like, "This is so funny." Like,
You look like a big minor
I
dancer.
I'm towering over him, and
Yeah.
I'm, like, leading the dance, I'm
Yeah.
like, "Come on."
Well, you're a minor. It's, too bad
And,
that he didn't have a dress on.
I'm like, "Shout out to him. He was the sweetest kid." But everyone's partnered up. I'm like, "I'm leading this dance, buddy. Just here we go." But yeah, that was my,
Those
gold
minor
rush in 4th grade. So, every kid in California grows up knowing a little something about it. So we're here to remind you of I am gonna
I
kill
know,
this fly.
we got a fly in here, but, it's only appropriate that the fly is here, in Gold Rush days because there was a lot of flies in the Gold Rush.
Yeah, yeah, and only appropriate that you're wearing a yellow Tommy Bahama shirt. There were a lot of those in the gold rush.
Well, Tommy Bahama probably wasn't around the Gold Rush, but, a yellow shirt was not out of the ordinary, to be worn.
Mhm.
All right, let's dive into this, as you would
Let's
dive
start from the
into
beginning.
the American River. Okay, the beginning. Well, you want the real gold beginning?
Well, can I just have one pre-note?
You bet.
Is episode 9, we talked about the Donner Party. And
God, that was a
when
good
they
one.
were stuck at Lake Donner, just high up in the Sierra Nevadas, when they made their final push of survival over the ridge and into Sutter, they were hiking through the mountains that had all the gold in them. So
Yeah.
they didn't
It
know,
was
but
all covered up by snow,
it's all covered up by snow, but they were climbing through the mountains that had all the gold
but
2 years before.
when they got out in, let's call it February and March of 1847,
Mhm.
okay? It was only a year later, January 1848, that James Marshall discovered the first nugget of gold on the American River at Sutter's Mill, which was he found it in the tailings. They were building this mill,
James Marshall? It
James
wasn't John
Marshall.
Sutter?
No, it was John Sutter's mill,
Oh,
but the guy who started just picking up nuggets was James Marshall, in the little town of Coloma along the American River. It's along Highway 49. It's like halfway between, it's south of Auburn and north of Placerville. It's a great little town. Been there a few times, river rafted out of there. Neat little place. And James Marshall, they were building a mill to mill lumber so John Sutter could keep building forts and buildings and sell wood. And James Marshall, kicking up. So they got what they thought was gold. They had it tested. And James Marshall and John Sutter decided that they were going to keep this a big secret. So now we're January 1848.
so that was the first piece of gold discovered. How do we know? Don't you think maybe a Native American or perhaps a Mexican citizen had discovered
Absolutely.
some
So
gold?
let me regress here. Okay, let's talk about the first Californians. Okay, to find gold were Spanish and Mexicans coming up from Spain. Coming up from
Modern day
Alta,
Mexico.
yeah, modern day Mexico, and they discovered the first gold in 1842 in the hills like around Magic Mountain. Is that the amusement park? Yeah, Magic Mountain.
Oh, like down south?
Yeah, north of Los Angeles. So Big Bear, all those mountains around there, that was gold country too. And they, how this guy discovered it, cool story.
The Golden State.
Yeah, I don't recall his name that discovered it, but it was a guy
Spanish
living down in
explorer.
Los Angeles, and he was up north up. Where's Magic Mountain in Cal? Um,
Tristan?
what there's a little town there, but it's up there where Highway 5 goes over the Grapevine. Okay, and he was alongside this little riverbed, and his horses were
Valencia?
yeah, around modern day Valencia, where Magic Mountain is.
Mhm.
So this guy's got his horse. His horse is chomping on some grass, getting a sip of water. And he finds some wild onions. So he's pulling up, and wild onions grow like in a reed, and then you pull them up, and you got an onion. So if food is scarce, you're munching on a wild onion. So this guy pulls up a wild onion, and attached to it is a nice big gold nugget.
That's a lucky onion.
Yeah, but they kept it quiet because what happened in those days is guys were smart. Gold had a value.
Yeah.
Okay, and in
Gold's
the
had value
beginning,
since the beginning of time.
gold's always had value. But in those in 1847, 1848, gold was worth about $20 an ounce. In today's dollars, $20 an ounce then is about $800. So today's value of gold, 2023, 2024, beginning of 2024, it's worth about 2,000 an ounce. So if you look at it, it wasn't like gold was free. It was during
Still
the
expensive.
yeah, during the gold rush, it was worth 800 an ounce, and today it's worth 2,000. About 2 years ago, it was worth $1,300 an ounce. So
Oh, wow, yeah.
gold is high now, it's inflated. But at $800 an ounce, that was can
Not
you
much
imagine
different from
stumbling on a couple ounces of gold?
you were
It's
rich.
a nice find. So guys were smart then, and they kept it quiet. And what they did is they made little maps, little treasure maps, and they were always going to go there and mine. But when you took off from, downtown Los Angeles in 1850, there was only, probably a couple thousand people. It was called Pueblo, Los Angeles, de Los Angeles, something. But, if you packed up 4 mules full of supplies and shovels and picks, people are like,
Where are you going?
where's Jessica, the little miner, going?
Yeah, it was a small town.
Yeah, and you tend to be followed in that. So it was all kept hush hush. The 1840, from 42 to 48, basically, there were 6 years that everybody knew there was gold in California. So the main gold areas were the Sierra Nevadas, from, let's say, outside of Fresno. So basically the whole Sierra Nevada range.
Starting in, like, Mammoth,
Yeah, around a little maybe south, like maybe around like where Mount Whitney is, and the
Yosemite.
southern Sierras, all the way to the northern Sierras, up in Lassen County, Siskiyou County, and then also up in Mount Shasta, where Mount Shasta is. And they had a big gold discovery, I think somewhere in the mid 1850s in Eureka.
Eureka?
No, uh, let's go there.
Yreka?
Eureka. But why is Eureka the state logo?
Well, that means found gold.
No, it means I found it.
Oh. In what
So,
language?
Eureka. Eureka.
Tristan?
What language is Eureka? I think it's Latin.
Yeah. Well, I just am
So on our state seal is
I'm not
I
biased or
found it.
anything. I'm not biased or
Greek.
I'm not biased or anything being a lifetime California resident,
That you've
but
never found gold?
know
Oh,
that I just am so fascinated and in awe of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Growing up, going to Tahoe and skiing around that rim
yeah.
and going to Mammoth and driving by all those Shasta and getting up to all the Great Lakes up there
Yeah.
and hiking Half Dome. And, we've been in and around those mountains and we've gone through some of the gold country and driven along the American River.
Yeah.
You went to Chico, so you're very familiar with Lassen
Chico State, right in the smack
and
dab middle there.
just all the mountain ranges. Like, they're so beautiful, and to think that underneath them was just this treasure trove
Was
of
all the gold.
gold. You know, we're the Golden State,
Yeah.
and we're the best state there is. Sorry, everyone else.
You wanna talk how much gold was there, or should we talk about that at
Well, we
the
don't
end?
know how much gold's there. There could be way more gold that no one ever
Well, how
found.
much gold was found? Okay, so here's the end number we'll throw out right now because it's so fascinating, but the estimate of gold they found, so the gold rush really lasted 8 years, from January of 1848 uh, through 1855. And by 1855, most of the gold rush had been found. Now, after 1855, it became more of a mining company. You needed to be a mining company. And that's when they got the big hoses and washed down hillsides and
Yeah.
really it did a lot of damage to the environment
Yeah.
um, because the easy picking gold. So when the gold rush first started, that summer of 1848, that's when gold was just like almost in plain sight.
Just
And
floating down the river
yeah, and
for
the little guy
grabs.
in his pan, little bearded guy with his miner hat on, finding ounce after ounce. And those first couple years, you know, miners really made a lot of money, but then it tapered off, became harder to find. So they would find new ways, washing a few ways that they did it. They washed a lot of material, and they'd get something called a sluice box. So they
I
would
know what that is.
sluice box, where you made one, a little version of a sluice box.
Yep,
So imagine
in
that the
4th
size of
grade.
this house, where you would just take wheelbarrow load after wheelbarrow of sand and gravel from a river, and you would slowly sluice that.
Yeah, the operation slowly sized up
Oh, it did.
as more people
Uh,
got word and came over,
and gold was harder to find.
and gold was harder
Yeah.
to find.
So then they started using chemicals in it. They used mercury to bind up the gold and
And just as it is in human nature, the politics get involved, the regulations get involved. "Oh, no, you have
well,
to
there
have
weren't a lot
this."
of regulations.
But, like, slowly over the years, "Oh, now well, the gold's so scarce, we need to have a mining company, so if you're coming over, you gotta work for a mining company. It's
Yes.
harder to go rogue."
Now you're an employee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's an interesting you ever hear the term claim jumper?
Isn't that a restaurant?
It's a restaurant chain, yeah.
A seafood restaurant?
It's a no, it's not. It's a like a steakhouse, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, claim jumper. But what a claim jumper is, um, let's go back. So in 1848, California was not a state, and it was part of Mexican territory. But during 1848, the Mexican American War was going on. So basically, it was a territory that was being fought over.
Mhm.
So if you want to talk about no rules, um, that was that was a place of no rules. Nobody
It was
there were
a wartime.
well, yeah, and everybody who was in charge of California, they were either fighting on one side or the other of the war.
Yeah.
So the Americans that were coming from the East Coast were fighting on the American side, and that's when oh, let's say, who was the general, but he went down and it might have been Sutter, but Sutter was involved in the war, but they went down and they seized Santa Barbara, and they were fighting, and that's when the Mexicans were kind of retreating south away from Northern California. So Mexican-American War,
Because so many, Americans had infiltrated the northern part of California
yeah, it
due to
settled
the gold
there.
rush,
Yeah, there
that the
was
numbers kind of pushed the remaining Mexicans in the area south.
yeah, the California population in 1846 was about 15,000.
That's crazy. And
15,000,
how many people live in California today?
40,000,000,
Ugh,
30, 39,000,000, 40,000,000. So
that is
if you
so
imagine the
insane.
state was 15,000 people. Okay, now 1855 after the gold rush, 300,000.
Yeah.
And maybe even more because now people were
So that was the biggest jump.
that was a huge jump, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That
that's
brought everyone's, you know, lineage
yeah,
here.
that brought a lot of Californians that have been here for multiple generations. A lot of them came here in the gold rush.
Yeah,
Um,
including
that's
ours.
that's one of our lines, the Carroll line, who came from Ireland to somewhere in the Midwest. I believe it was Missouri that they were mining, then went to
Virginia City, Nevada.
Virginia City, Nevada, and then came to San Jose, California. So
And
it
let's do
was
a
after the gold
little
rush.
dive on, our poor ancestor in Virginia City, Nevada, who met a terrible fate
It was
in
in
the
a mi-
bottom of a mine.
was in a mining accident. I'll give the full story of that when we go into. We're gonna talk one episode on Virginia City because it's a fascinating
Okay, we'll
city
save
in
that one.
itself. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
we had an ancestor. I believe he was my second or third generation grandfather. So my great grandfather. It was Daniel Carroll or Richard Carroll.
that would be a question for your mother.
Yes. We'll get my mother, the genealogist, out. But he was pretty much blown up in a mining accident. Boom.
Gnarly.
Yeah, there's a neat article written about it.
A gnarly way to go.
So let's go back to population. So you got 15,000 people. The Spanish, not Spanish. The Mexican American War started in. Let's see. It started in April of 1846. Okay.
So that was the year that the Donner Party left Missouri.
Yeah. So the Donner Party exactly was just leaving Missouri when the war broke out. So they were
That's bad.
traveling.
They had bad luck on a few fronts.
Yeah. And it didn't cease till it was almost a 2-year war to February 1848.
Only a 2-year war.
Yeah, about a year and 10 months. It's pretty quick. So here it is, February 1848. Gold's discovered in January. So California literally just is like this territory that we got in the Treaty of Hidalgo that was signed in May of 1848. It ceded California to the United States.
Yeah.
And quickly, because of the gold rush, we were already became a state in 1850. So you have a place like the Oregon Territory that was long a territory before it was a state. We went from territory to statehood in 2 years.
Yeah,
That's a really fast curve on the statehood of how the states were built.
and obviously the gold had something to do with that. United States went, "We want California."
Well, yeah, and it had a population from 15,000 to 300,000.
And that rivaled other large populations of the United States at the time? Or is that
That
still pretty small
that was a lot. No, that was a lot of people. 300,000.
compared to still to the populations on the East Coast?
Yeah, I mean, not maybe the population of Boston, New York, Baltimore, Washington, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you look at what was in Kentucky and Illinois and Missouri and Kansas at the time, that was a large population.
So California, since the very beginning, has been a populous state
Boom, since 1850,
out the gate.
out of the gate. All
That's
right,
interesting.
okay, so they'd said that the gold rush that started in 1848 was the first world-class gold rush. World gold rush, meaning that people from all around the world knew about it. So people came from South America, all over South America. Of the 300,000 that came in that 7 to 8 year period, about half came by land and half came by sea. So
Again, back to our question from last episode. Would you rather
150,000
come by
came.
sea or come by land?
Yes. And then like 20,000 Chinese came
Oh, wow.
into San Francisco from ports of China to San Francisco. 20,000
Could you
Chinese.
imagine
Huge
taking a
number.
boat from China to San Francisco in 1848?
Yeah. A long trip.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
But even they were coming from Australia, New Zealand, all around the world.
Imagine how many ships got lost and
Little
never made
trivia,
it.
they came from a place called the Sandwich Islands.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Where are they?
They're in somewhere in the Pacific.
They are. They're smack dab. Right
Between
there.
Hawaii?
They're in Hawaii. They are
Oh.
Hawaii.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they called Hawaii the Sandwich Islands.
Okay, because I'd heard that term before. I didn't know that was Hawaii.
Where did they get that name?
Well, they're sandwiched right in the middle between.
Sandwich smack dab in the Pacific.
Man, I think if I was leaving China and stopped in Hawaii, I don't know if I would have kept
I
going.
would have stayed.
I mean,
But there was no gold in Hawaii.
No, I wonder what Hawaii was like at that
The
point.
only gold in Hawaii was a pineapple.
Liquid gold.
C and H sugar. Okay, so we're gonna go. I wanted to touch
Man,
on
it is coming down out
how
there.
the gold rush spread. Okay, so you got Marshall and Sutter, two savvy guys, and they want to keep this a secret. So if they kept it a secret, they could have like blocked off all of Coloma, the American River, got land deeds for it, and really captured this gold.
Mhm.
But Sutter had a guy working for him named Charles Bennett. He was a loudmouth. He
He
was
was
a blabbermouth.
Charles.
He sent Charles Bennett to go talk to uh, at the time, I believe he was a colonel, the colonel that was in charge of California after the war. Here, Colonel. Colonel Mason, was it? Yeah, Colonel Mason. Fort Mason, San Francisco.
Mhm.
So Colonel Mason, or General Mason later probably, was in charge of California. Hey, we just won, and now you're in charge. He resided in Monterey. So Sutter set Bennett to go talk to him and try to secure the rights without telling him about the gold, to secure the rights for his lumber mill. And then if he was given all those rights, he would have captured all that land. But Mason said no. And in that, uh, Charles Bennett blabbed that they had found gold.
So he stood strong, said, "No, no, no, no."
Let
And
the
then
cat out of the bag.
Bennett went, "Okay, okay, I'll tell you what's really we have gold there. Come on, we really need it."
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some pretty good books written about that whole that whole, what really happened there. But
Yeah.
it's a pretty long trip to ride a horse from Sutter's Fort, which was in Sacramento, to Monterey, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a good trek. That's what, 200 miles.
Yeah.
Uh,
5, 6 hours
yeah,
by car.
yeah, that's a good,
No,
no,
4 hours by
three,
car.
yeah, 3.5, 4 hours by car. So it's a good ride. Then on his way back, he stopped at, which was the first capital of California, Benicia. And there in Benicia,
Benicia, the capital of California,
yeah,
really?
Benicia was one of the capitals, you bet.
Wow.
And because you see, it was, look where it was.
Very central.
Well, where is it halfway between?
South and north.
Sacramento
In Fresno?
and San Francisco.
Sacramento and San Francisco. Oh, yeah, I think of it as more south.
No, it's right on the river.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's also on the Sacramento River. So how do you get goods?
Yeah, shipping.
Highway 80 is not there. So how do you get everything that's from San Francisco up to Sacramento and jump off for mining?
River.
The Sacramento River. So
Yeah.
Benicia was a great place. So he stopped by Benicia, probably tipped back a few ales and blabbed that there was gold.
At the pub.
Yep. So Monterey, Benicia. He also made another stop. I think he maybe stopped in San Jose, because San Jose was another. It was a pretty good size
Populous area.
population, yeah, of the time. San Francisco. Here's a crazy one. So Bennett, he spread the word. So now the word just started spreading, and
Yeah.
now there was one guy, last name of Brennan, where he knew the gold rush was coming, and he rushed to Sacramento and opened up. He bought every mining supply thing in San Francisco, every pitchfork, shovel,
See, that would have been
blanket.
you.
What? Yeah, and he went to put it on a boat, went up to Sacramento, and opened up a store
That would have
so he
been
could
you,
sell all the
a
stuff.
retailer.
I would have been selling. I know. I don't like stooping and mining, but
You don't like being on your
I could
hands
really
and knees?
I could sell some jeans and shovels.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Levi Strauss, another German immigrant that came. You know his story, Levi Strauss?
No, but
All right.
that makes a lot of sense.
So Levi Strauss came from Germany, and I'm going to cliff note a little bit of this because I did not read up. This is on just full memory of Levi's. But he had brought canvas material, and he had brought it for the gold rush to sell tents.
Because he knew
And
about the gold rush and came purposely for it?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I believe he got here maybe in 1849, 1850, close to that.
Mhm.
But the miners said, we don't need tents. We need rugged pants. We sleep under the stars. We don't need any more tents. But our pants are wearing out. They're too thin. So Levi Strauss took his material, his heavy denim material. So before, tents were always made of canvas,
Mhm.
and canvas was too light. It wore out. But he brought denim, which was another cotton material, but it was just really heavyweight. So he started making trousers, overalls, and
Pants,
there,
jeans.
yeah, there's Levi Strauss, the largest producer of pants in the world for a lot of years. I don't know where they stand right now, but
Yeah.
Levi's
That's a cool
made,
story.
yeah, Levi's made a lot of pants.
That's awesome.
Levi
You
Strauss.
have a lot of Levi's.
Okay, so population, this is crazy. Population of San Francisco. Okay, just talking San Francisco.
Mhm.
1847, before the gold rush, Donner parties, nibbling on each other in the Sierras. San Francisco's just hanging out a little bit. How many people there? 500.
In San Francisco.
500 residents in San Francisco in
Well, that was kind of a gnarly place to
1847.
live if you were gonna settle in the area.
Well, yeah, there wasn't a huge food source. It was mostly fishing. You
Yeah.
survived on fishing.
But it's cold and foggy
It's
and
foggy. Yeah, you're on a little peninsula.
yeah.
There were no bridges,
Yeah.
so you pretty much were relied on watercraft to get
Yeah.
around, whether you
And
were
the
fishing.
the waves are big around there and the water's
Yeah,
kinda
you go
gnarly.
outside the gate and you're it's a free for all. So,
Yeah.
but that's where ships were coming into because that was once you come into San Francisco Bay, it's one of the largest natural harbors in the world. I mean, it's a great natural harbor. All right,
Mhm.
1848, 1,000 people. It doubles. 1849, 25,000.
Jeez.
1850, 30,000. 1851, 32,000. 1852, 36,000. So
They were
from the
just coming
gold
in
rush,
droves.
500 to over 36,000. That's some population growth.
Yeah.
So that really regimented San Francisco as the hub of California.
That's their
It's
origin.
amazing that San Francisco did not become the capital
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
And they left the capital in after it moved around a little bit, right? It went from Benicia, I think it was in Monterey at one time too. So Monterey, San Jose, Benicia, and it ended up in Sacramento. So that's because where was Sutter's Fort in Sacramento. And the gold rush, although everybody that came there by ship came into San Francisco, Sacramento also had this boom and the capital became Sacramento.
Yeah. Why does a place become a capital as opposed to another? Just they just made the promise
It's a
and
good
stuck with it?
question. Yeah, I mean, that's just somewhere where, it's usually because if you really go through the country, the capital cities are rarely ever the largest city.
Mhm.
I mean, just start picking off, Kansas. It's not Kansas City.
Bismarck,
It's gosh,
North Dakota.
we're gonna have to go over some geography lessons. It's Topeka, Kansas.
No,
And
Bismarck is the capital of North Dakota, and Pierre is the capital of South Dakota. Fact
yes,
check that.
yes, that is
Tristan?
true, but I was talking Kansas.
Oh, okay.
So Topeka, Kansas is this little tiny town, right? And it's not, you would think uh, Missouri, it's not St. Louis, it's Jefferson City. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of times, it's cities that were prosperous when they became, but they didn't grow anymore. They became the capital. And then because of business and just how business flowed, uh, the other cities, you know, outgrew the capital.
Mhm.
Look at Los Angeles. If you took the population of California, Los Angeles should be the capital, but it's Sacramento. Sacramento has barely a million population
Yeah.
versus Southern California's, LA 7 million.
Yeah, it's like every lower you go on the rung, it halves it. So it goes Los Angeles is biggest, then half that's like the Bay Area, then half the Bay Area is like San Diego, then half of San Diego is like Fresno, and then half of Fresno is like Sacramento.
No, Sacramento's the greater Sacramento area is probably about the size of San Diego County, about 2 million.
Yeah, greater area.
Okay,
Anyway,
so we went over the population, and then let's talk how much gold came out of the hills because this
okay.
is cool. So they say 118 million ounces of gold were brought out during the gold rush?
118 million.
Okay, 118 million ounces. So at $20, let's go back then, okay? At $20 an ounce, 118, now we're at 236 million, all right?
Billion?
So we go $2.3 billion in today's standards. Okay, if you had 118 million ounces of gold today, you have $250 billion. So $250 billion came out of the hills along Highway 49 of the Sierra Nevada gold rush. $250 billion.
And there's more in there.
And that's what's estimated and accounted for. How much never was even accounted for? How
Yeah.
much was sent back
Probably
to
another half.
different? Yeah, one stat said there was over like $5 billion just sent back to France from French miners.
Yeah. Every major European government probably put a force together and sent him over.
Yes, it inflated the world economy like no other single action has ever.
Yeah.
Because all of that gold, right? It wasn't like today's wealth of banking wealth and just numbers, right? Kind of fake numbers. Like take Bitcoin.
Debt.
What really is Bitcoin
Yeah.
and what is its worth? Okay, it's on the computers.
Well,
If the lights went out tomorrow, Bitcoin is worth nothing, right?
Mm.
As long as well as most everybody's portfolios, because they're just
numbers on a screen.
numbers on a screen. So if the lights went out, now if you have gold though, gold has been collected by the Egyptians, the Aztecs, every ancient civilization in the world of the history of man, dating back 10,000 years, always collected gold.
Mhm.
Gold was cool. It's like a little kid
Gold,
picking up.
frankincense, and myrrh. It's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible. Picking up the shiny object. When you were on a river full of sand or gravel or whatever it was flowing, you always picked up that shiny object.
Mhm.
And that was gold. So gold has really been, since the formation of civilization, since
Probably ancient cultures and civilizations that we aren't even aware of.
I mean, the Tigris-Euphrates River, which was the cradle of civilization.
Modern civilization.
Yeah, it was the Tigris and Euphrates
Mhm.
Valley was the first civilization before the Egyptians, and it goes back about 5,000 when they built the pyramids, about 3,000
Well,
years ago.
that is a topic that
2,500.
we need to have an entire podcast on
They
because
built the pyramids about 4,500 years ago, is what
that's one
that's
opinion.
one opinion. So the
I am of the opinion that they were built
first
much
civilization.
earlier.
Okay, so let's go back about 7,000 years. So about 7,000 years. For 7,000 years, a piece of gold has had a worth. So, and
Mhm.
that's crazy that in 1850, along the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas, was the world's largest gold rush,
Yeah.
accounting for $250 billion.
Yeah.
Crazy
And
facts.
what's neat to me about the gold rush is you think of it to be this kind of local or regional um, event, but you say that it's was really one of the first global events because if you think about
Mhm.
back in you know early times before the 1800s, before the 1400s, when we were struggling to get around the earth by a boat,
Yeah.
we were able to come up with technologies of travel, boats, buggies, horseback, and we started sprawling out. All different cultures started sprawling out and exploring what was beyond the horizon. But that was the first global exploration. Now we can pick up the phone and call our cousins in Ireland and talk to them and be there in 8 hours. Um, so back then it's just cool that the first ever real global event where everyone heard quick, everyone came quick, and everyone went right back home, sent the stuff right back home quick. Like that happened right in our backyard.
Yeah. Now, you say it was the first global event. That wasn't a what? There was a lot of global events.
That wasn't a pandemic or
What
endemic.
wasn't a war.
Oh,
Okay, there was tons of global events, but they were most of the time
Right.
usually
This was like a
usually
positive
revolved
one.
around some sort of invasion, a war between 2 countries,
A crusade.
a poverty event,
Yeah.
a global drought that caused
The
poverty.
Black Plague.
Yeah, the plague, which, was pretty cool.
That's another episode that we
Killed
could.
half of Europe.
Gee.
Okay, so a couple of other things. We already went over the population, right? 300,000 people came, half by land. How'd they come? Oregon Trail, California Trail. Now, they came by the California Trail. We really, um, touched on the Oregon Trail because it's kind of historic for our family because you're, uh,
For a lot of families who live on the
yes,
West Coast.
but the California Trail was basically half the Oregon Trail, what, to Fort Laramie, and then through the Great Basin and over the Sierra. So the
Oh.
California Trail really then started. Basically, they were paving Highway 80. Highway 80 should have been paved in gold. So that was, from Salt Lake. Then there was someone. It wasn't such a brutal trip anymore because, again,
More
that
people, the
theory
more it
of,
becomes a road and a.
yeah, the theory of supply chain, right? You bring stuff more and more and more, and then,
Yeah.
but it still wasn't an easy route. But 150,000 miners came across land. 150,000 went by the ocean. So I want to go over the ocean routes, okay? So you're leaving New York. You got two choices. All right, the cheap route, 6 months, 5 to 6 months, sailing south around Brazil, uh, the Cape around Argentina, watching for some penguins, hoping that you don't, and you got to time that one just right, right? Because that's a seasonal thing.
Yeah, it's
It gets
freezing down there. It's Antarctica, damn near.
brutal. You're almost to Antarctica, and then all the way up past Chile, Peru, and all the way up the coast. So long route, 5 to 6 months on a ship.
I
Now,
don't know if I would,
if you had cash, here's how you did it. Here is the better way. Was the Panama Canal there?
no.
No. But what they did, Panama Canal, if you're not familiar with that, it's a couple of big lakes. So the Panama Canal isn't really, I think a lot of people think it like cuts through Panama. There's uh, when you enter the Panama Canal off the Caribbean, you come to a first part of the Panama Canal that's a few locks, and it's only maybe a mile long. I mean, maybe half a mile. It's not very far.
Mm.
Then you get into this huge lake that you travel by water. And then you go through these waterways, and then you're almost to the Pacific, and you go through another series of locks, which is another maybe 5 miles of locks
Have you
or
ever gone
a
through the
few miles.
Panama
I
Canal?
have not.
Bucket list?
Bucket list, absolutely.
Well, right now, they're going through a major drought, so everything's really low, so a lot of the big, big ships can't get through.
That's correct. Yes.
It's crazy.
The big ships can no longer get through.
Mhm.
And the Panamanians don't want to drain all their resources
'Cause they're
for
worried.
world shipping.
Yeah.
Do you blame them? I
No.
mean, they need the water, so they
Yeah.
don't want to drain their lake to pump the water because I guess once you pump the water, then it's contaminated with seawater, can't go back in the lake.
I don't
But
blame them.
so what you did is you got to, and Panama City is on the Pacific side. So the crossing of the Panama Canal isn't all canals and locks. A lot of it is inner
It's a series of
travel.
waterways.
Yes. So what you would do is the boat would get to from the Caribbean to Panama. You would then go along with mules. Then you'd go to the first lake, and then you would be transported by boat there. Then where the second set of locks are, back to the mules and or wagon trains, and then you'd get to the Pacific. So you basically were going through Panama before it was a canal. They also did it in Nicaragua because there's a big lake in Nicaragua. So if you mule train the 40 miles of whatever it is, you get to a lake, then you get on a boat, and then it's only like 5 miles from the end of the lake up and over this
To another
mountain
boat, then you're
to
headed
get on the
north.
Pacific side.
I
So
think that's the way I would've gone.
but it was more expensive,
Yeah.
but it cut the route down to 3 months.
Yeah.
You shaved 2 to 3 months on a boat.
How long did it take you to go from Europe to the Caribbean? Like
The
6
sailing
weeks?
route, yeah, I would say probably between, the shortest route, like if you left Ireland and you went into like Newfoundland, they could make that in like 3 weeks. And I'm just going off statistics from like Revolutionary War War of 1812, how fast the British Navy got there.
It depended on weather too.
A lot on the weather and how the wind currents were going, right? You were going off wind.
Yeah.
Now, in 1850, the sailboats had all switched to steamboats. So steamboats were coming. So, um, as long as you had the resource of loading coal on a boat, you didn't have to worry about the wind. You
Even
would,
on the ocean?
yeah, steamboats.
They weren't just river dwellers?
Nope. So picture a paddle wheel boat like we did in Nashville. That was run by
On the
steam.
ocean?
Well, built differently, built like a schooner, built like you would see a clipper ship,
Yeah.
but run by steam.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there'd be, like a small paddle. I'm not super up
You're
to
gonna have
date
to
on
brush up
my,
on your ocean
yeah, on my steamboat and, what years it
history.
went from. It's like a Jimmy Buffett song. And they went from sails to steam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how a pirate looks at 40.
Shout out Jimmy Buffett.
Shout out Jimmy Buffett. We miss him. Okay, so so there was three different ways, right? You could go around the Horn, you could cut through the isthmus,
The Isthmus.
or you could hit the California Trail, or you could come obviously from the Pacific side, which many did. Japan, Korea, the
No
largest
way from
Asian.
Europe, around Africa, through the Indian Ocean, through the entire Pacific. That people came that route?
No, no, no. If you were coming from Europe,
Yeah.
you came to the East Coast,
Yeah, that's way out
resupplied,
of the way.
kicked back in Boston, had a couple pints with Sam
That
Adams.
would be a fun journey.
You think? Okay, so do you remember the ship you went on when
As
we
long as you
were
don't get
when we
sick
were in
or
Ireland? We took you on a tour of one of they call them the coffin ships, and the Irish during the potato famine. So again, here's another thing. When was the potato famine raging?
the same time.
1850, yeah. So
That's crazy.
a ton of those.
Of Irish
I got
came.
nothing left, and there
There's
was,
nothing here for me.
yeah, they kept going on the ship and made it to San Francisco. San Francisco has a very large, two major European backgrounds into San Francisco. What are they?
Irish and Italian.
In Italian. And both were,
Seems like the Irish and the Italians are everywhere,
they
though.
kind of stick together.
Boston, New York.
Yeah. They're the mutts of this country.
Yeah.
The Irish and the Italians. And they didn't always get along with each other, but they did have
No.
one central root. What was their what was their what was their glue that held those, even though they maybe didn't fall in love with each other? But what was the one
They're
thing they had in
European.
common? No, they were both Catholic.
Ah,
They were both two major Catholic
cultures.
culture or populations that came to a Protestant country.
Yeah.
So the majority, the founding fathers, there wasn't a Catholic founding father. All the founding fathers were Protestant.
Mm.
So the Irish, when they immigrated, why they were so, why they were just
Disliked.
hated by everybody is because they were Catholic, and the Italians the same way. And when Portuguese got here, and why we fought the Mexican-American War, the Spanish were,
Catholic.
Mexicans were,
Catholic.
yes. So I mean the missions, Catholic missions. This was all part. It was almost a 100% Protestant country. So
That's interesting, and another topic for
that's
discussion,
another topic. Gosh, we just
potentially.
have. Okay, couple of other really cool facts. We're getting towards the end here, but California, obviously called the Golden State,
Go Warriors.
the Golden State. We went over Eureka. I found it all on gold. Here's a cool little one. You ever notice the highway signs that are made? And they're like in a shield, right?
Yeah, the blue.
Green and white. The highway, whether it says Highway
I think they
80,
might be blue,
Highway.
and you're just colorblind.
Well, those are interstates, but the state routes inside of California are green with a white
Okay.
trim.
Okay.
But what shape are they in?
The gold nugget?
A spade of a shovel.
Oh,
Yeah. And
interesting.
that was on purpose. So the spade of a shovel, and it's inverted. So, it's like a spade going down
Mhm.
is if you look up, Route 49, Highway 49, it's in a spade.
That's why they called it 49, obviously.
Yeah. And that's where the 49ers came from. They actually had a term of 48ers, and they were the original. So,
Really?
yeah, so um, January 48. Remember, it took a lot of planning to get here. So there were only like a couple thousand miners that came in 1848. So they were called 48ers. They were the OGs. Those are the
Oh,
guys that were walking down the river just like picking up nuggets. Ooh, Eureka. And then when it got to New York City in the summer, about I think the uh, big New York papers in Philadelphia. I mean, the big cities, right? Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore. When they all started to write the articles, it was kind of summer of 1848,
so they were all
July,
coming next year.
August. So then, I'm not gonna. You don't do it all winter long. I mean, you've seen the Midwest in the winter. You don't walk through it in December, January. So they all made their plans. Maybe got on the ships in the fall. See, if you were going to take a 6-month journey and go around the Horn, you'd want to leave in the fall because when you got around the Horn, what's December 21st at the southern tip?
The shortest day of the year.
Longest day of the year there. It's midsummer.
Oh,
Exact opposite of what we are.
yep.
So if you left Boston
Forget
in
about that.
October, you rounded the Horn, and then when became springtime, you went all the way up. So
That was
you
actually a
you,
better deal then.
you had to time that. Yeah. You kind of
Yeah.
went through the season. You basically went through the seasons in your 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
So 49ers were then everybody who got there in 49. So you were named for your year. It was almost like your class, like
Yeah.
your high school class. You're a 48er. I'm a 49er. But it kind of stopped at 49ers.
Why did
There's no
49ers stick?
because that's when the bulk really. I mean, that was when the biggest push
Yeah.
came, and then
Well, we got the San Francisco 49ers, we got the
San
Golden State
Francisco
Warriors,
49ers.
Sacramento Kings,
Um,
San Jose Sharks, San Francisco
one
Giants, Oakland A's.
one thing we'll briefly touch on is that there was really some bad things that happened to the great Indian tribes of the Sierras, though.
Really?
Yeah, because if you think about the indigenous Indian tribes, they were hunters and gatherers. They could care less about the gold. They looked at the gold. They weren't collecting the gold because it had no value to them. Perhaps in hindsight, they should have picked up more gold, and they could have used it to leverage
Yeah.
more deals. But they were more into hunting and gathering. Well, if you were a bunch of miners, you were killing all the deer. You were scooping up all the fish. So they took away their food source.
Yeah.
Now, the food source also was the rivers. They relied on the rivers. The water got bad.
Because of the mercury.
Okay. Before livestock, most of the rivers were clean. The livestock hadn't contaminated the rivers with all the bad stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you would be drinking right out of the rivers. Now, you're mining in the mid Sierras, so everything downriver, it now becomes polluted.
Yeah.
So polluted water, wiping out all their food, and then just
Just their general presence.
and then just the killing
Yeah.
that went on
Fighting.
because of the competition. So
Yeah.
that was an extremely unfortunate part of that. They say upwards of there's one statistic that the government had that about 5,000 Indians were killed during the gold rush.
Ugh.
Uh, it's at least 10,000, and some historians are, keep digging up more evidence, and, an old letter that there was another. I mean, there were massacres where, like one of them in the Sierras, they'd killed 50 men, women, and children because of uh, two Indians had encountered a miner and killed him. Now, we don't know the reason for that, but the sheriff got a posse together. They
Yeah.
went and they killed 50 of a tribe. Wrong tribe.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Different, mixed up. Whoops. Wrong tribe. Sorry about that. Wiped out 50.
Jeez.
I mean, now you talk about 50.
Yeah.
Wasn't even 50 that were killed in the Donner Party, and it's been this epic discussion and topic. And just one little. So how
People
many of
forget about
those?
that.
Yeah, how many of those went on?
That would be a good episode to do about all the native tribes of California, because it is the dark side of American history that,
It is.
so much death had to occur
Yeah,
in order
we
for.
have two absolute dark sides of American history: our treatment of the indigenous people and slavery.
Yeah.
And today, We are still, 175
Still working through that.
years later,
Yeah.
we are still working through those problems. But this is part of Pappy Hour. We don't talk left. We don't talk right. We talk history.
Mhm.
And history, if you learn history and you know history, um, then you learn from your mistakes, you don't repeat them, and you acknowledge those.
Yeah.
So it's part of history.
Yeah. Well, that might be a cool episode to do about some of the Native American populations in California.
Yeah. All right, last little tidbit, which could be a very hot topic politically. So we're not going to go politically, but it is something just to think on, and we'll leave you with it to chew on. But why was San Francisco the largest up until recently, but one of the largest, and it was the largest per capita gay men population in the world?
Hot topic.
Hot topic.
Let me
So
think.
now you talk numbers of immigration.
Probably be because of the fact that most of the people that immigrated were men.
Yes, 1850, 40,000 men came into San Francisco, 700 women. 40,000 men, 700 women.
Yeah.
And so women were in extremely high demand. So what you saw in these camps in the Sierras, the mining camps, if they were gonna, there was no, right? We know that there was no films, there was no entertainment, there wasn't radio even then. So
Only companionship.
live entertainment was your only form of entertainment. So you played music, and if you danced, we're dancing together. So getting back to the miner, you're dressing up in a dress and I'm going to dance with you. And we're just going to leave it at that. But
That's very interesting.
the word cross dressing, okay, was a term used back then. Now, this wasn't to where the level it is, but someone would cross dress, meaning we got to pick one out of the bunch. You're going to play Mary in the play, or we're having Romeo and Juliet, and we don't have a Juliet. So we got 4,000 Romeos, but we need a Juliet. So you're dressing up as Juliet. Now just let your imagination go with that. And I think anybody that can critically think could see how, yes,
The humanism in it.
when you have all men and no women, how just the cross dressing, and I don't mean, and I don't want to get deep into the true homosexuality of it, but just of that it was kind of okay.
Yeah.
So then, and San Francisco was lawless. So if you came to San Francisco from New York or Boston,
It's not like they had those preconceived notions of any of that.
you left the crazy Protestant, Baptist,
Yeah.
Pentecostal faith, right?
Mhm.
Much like the Pilgrims, why they left England to do their
And
way.
you finally had some freedom.
So now you're in San Francisco. It's all you can drink, all you can mine, but there's no women. So brothels were extremely popular. They said the money made on casinos for gambling, brothels for prostitution, and bars for drinking might have even outpaced the gold rush, especially after 1855.
Yeah.
When the true gold was found, then the prosper became on all of those businesses.
Yeah.
And I grew up in I'm going to say my generation when I started to travel to San Francisco in the 80s. In San Francisco in the 80s, it was a crazy place.
Yeah.
Like you left San Jose because San Jose was extremely strict and very well policed, and you went to San Francisco, and it definitely
Had its
it was
freedom.
policed, but it was at a
Well,
whole different level.
that goes back to, like, have you heard of, like, the Charlie Manson and how the CIA were involved in, orchestrating these brothels and dosing Johns with LSD and conducting
Oh, their
experiments?
experiments about LSD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, all that was done in and around the brothel scene because it's not like some guy's gonna go
You
tattle, Where were you when you were tripping on the
yeah.
LSD?" "I
Listen,
was at the brothel."
you
Like,
didn't do it at the country club. You
yeah.
did it at the brothel.
Yeah,
because your clientele weren't people that were
yeah,
going to, go to the press.
yeah. So that was just part of the evolution of that culture. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's why I really enjoy being a historian and just I can't read enough about history and interpret it because you I've never put together San Francisco's gay population with the gold rush
Or the
until
potato famine with the gold rush,
yeah, until
or
I just, until I read for 4 hours about the gold rush and came across that little fact and went, "Wow, that's an interesting one."
yeah, that is
Yeah,
interesting.
and, California, we're gonna keep talking about California
That's why California is
history.
one of the greatest states. Anyone who, wants to be them true selves, to come find gold, to
To
come
always find
enjoy
gold in
our
California.
beautiful scenery, to be your best gay self. We want to be Catholic, to be Protestant.
Everything.
Yeah, but
Alright,
that was super interesting.
there's the gold rush.
The gold and, you know, gold is such a humanistic, you know, part of our history, part of the human history. We've been
Yeah.
fascinated with it, seeked it out for many a
Thousands
century,
and thousands of years.
and we had so much of it right here in our backyard, and there's probably more in there,
Oh, there's a lot more in there. There's a lot more.
but no one wants to blow up Tahoe to find gold. We'll just keep it right where it's at.
Keep it pristine. You
Yeah.
want gold? Costco's got it. Alright, thanks for joining us. Episode 10's a wrap, and
Episode
we'll
10 in the books.
see you next time.
See ya.